If you wanted to remove just the inner rocker panels without disturbing the outer rocker or the floor, just for the sake of argument, say this floor is in excellent condition, but your inner rocker panel is rotted and needs to be replaced, you would need to locate the spot welds that are in this channel that are built into the floor pan. You need to locate these spot welds. Usually, if the floor pan was in better condition, you could run like a 2-inch disc sander down this several times back and forth, and it would reveal the indentations that the spot welder leaves, and you could locate the spot welds that way, and then use a spot weld remover with your drill and drill out the spot welds. And just all the spot welds are located in this channel from the back of the front door, or in my case the only door, from the back of the door all the way forward up to and underneath the lower support bracket at the A pillar. So to remove the inner rocker panel, I've got to locate the spot welds that are within this channel. This is the channel that's built into the floor pan. And parts of this video will probably be edited into parts of the floor pan video, because as you can see, I've already separated the floor pan flange from the outer rocker flange. I've located those spot welds and drilled them out. But like I said, if you're just doing the inner rocker panel, you don't need to remove these spot welds. I'm not going to bother locating and drilling out the spot welds since I'm going to replace the floor pan anyway. Should probably have some gloves on. Alright, so there was one really stubborn spot weld right here and one really stubborn spot weld right here. This right here is sort of a backing plate for some hardware that is fender related, front fender related. I don't think it's part of the inner rocker panel. I'll have to see better when I get it further apart. But I got lucky. I think there's only one spot weld back there on the inner rocker flange where it's going underneath this support bracket. So that's as far as I can get up front. Now I'll turn around and continue removing the spot welds in this flange back here. I've continued separating the outer rocker flange from the floor flange, and now I'm going to separate the floorboards from the inner rocker flange. There's the flange right there, and you can see that the channel continues until it gets back here to the lock pillar, and the channel disappears underneath this compound right here, this sealing compound. Now you can see that the channel goes back here and disappears under this bracket right here. So where the channel comes back and disappears under this bracket, it never comes back out from under this panel right here. So you can't get to the spot welds from up here in the cab. So to orient you, the front of the car is that way. You can only get to the spot welds right about here on the front side of this body mount, which is just slightly forward of the lock pillar, or what some people you would call the B pillar on a post car. So you can't get to the spot welds on top of the inner rocker flange. They're not easy to access. You remember, this is the inner rocker, and this is where it goes up and flanges outwards, and here's your floor pan comes over and covers up this flange, and that's the spot weld connection. So to get to this flange, I'm going to have to open up this inner rocker panel. I'm going to have to cut a hole in it. I'm going to have to do it between this body mount and that body mount, and then about 6 more inches from this body mount back to the back here to the rear wheel well. So I'm just going to cut as close as I can get to this area here. It's as close as I can get the cutoff wheel up to this area where the flange is at. So I need to separate the spot welds in this inner rocker panel flange from the outer rocker panel flange right in here. Got to try to uncover them. So I can see these pretty good. Right there. If I could get my drill up here at a 90-degree angle, I could drill these out, but I can't really do that. So I'm going to have to do something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this carpenter's chisel and drive it between the flanges, between the two flanges. And I don't care about the inner rocker flange because that's being replaced anyway. But I'm trying to take care of the outer rocker flange. It's going to be replaced eventually too, but for the time being, I'm going to need it as a reference, or I might need it as a reference when it comes to locating the new inner rocker panel. So if I was not able to locate those spot welds, I could have used my chisel and just separated the flanges, and where the chisel drives in easily, obviously there's no spot weld. Where the chisel stops, you're hitting a spot weld. You can feel it and hear it. So had I not located that spot weld, I would know there's one there anyway because of the way the chisel hit it. And to remove the spot weld, now I'll use my cutoff wheel to weaken the spot weld. And there's two things you can do with the cutoff wheel. I can hit the spot weld head on like this and try to weaken it. Let's try that first. So I weakened that one enough to shear it with the chisel. Do another one. Another way to separate spot welds is to separate the flange on both sides of the spot weld the best you can. And then go straight up between the two flanges with the cutoff wheel. Just try to focus the cutoff wheel on the side of the flange that you don't care about. Before I get too carried away, I'm going to measure from the center of the body mount to the lower edge of the flange so I know how far below the body mount the flange should be installed. And I've got right here I've got 7/8 of an inch, and I'll check each one of the mounts and I'll write it down. And right here I've got about 3/4 of an inch. Want to relocate the new rocker, same as the old rocker. So I've got, right now the rocker panel extends about 5.5 inches from the upper part of this body mount to the flange. At the frontmost mount I've got 3/4 of an inch, and butted against the front mount the rocker extends 3.5 inches towards the front wheel well. Before I take the old rocker out, I want to make sure the new rocker is dimensionally the same. So I got 4 1/8, and the flange is 7/8, and the overall length is 75 13/16. So then with a good sharp wood chisel, I'm going to shear the spot welds where the body mount flange is spot welded to the inner rocker. These take a lot of force. You need the car up in the air so that you can get a good hammer swing on the chisel, which I don't really have here. So this little space right here, which is the frontmost part of the inner rocker panel, is difficult to remove because of this steel plate right here. The inner rocker comes along and it spot welds to the flange of this body mount, but on the other side of the rocker is this steel plate. It's a little reinforcement plate right here, and it's going to have a lot of spot welds on it for some reason. And about the only thing you can do is take your cutoff wheel and try to slowly grind it until you get it so thin that you can literally peel it away from this steel plate. Alright, so with the rocker panel out, you can see the inner rocker comes along and it's actually sandwiched between the body mount and this steel plate right in here. So here you can see better where the spot welds were. That made it a little difficult because I couldn't get my chisel up in here to separate the rocker from the plate, and I'm trying not to damage this plate. So by taking my cutoff wheel and just sort of grinding this area here, I found the spot welds and managed to peel off what was left of the inner rocker. Now the plate right here goes up, and the rocker is still connected in this area from about 1/3 of the lower section of the plate. So you have to find those spot welds as well without damaging the plate. You can see I cut into the plate by accident right here, but that shouldn't be a problem. The plate goes up to this point and it rolls outward, so the rocker panel's not connected to this upper part of the plate. So I got the rocker panel out, but now it's important to get all the remaining pieces of the inner rocker that were torn or somehow left in place. You got to make sure the flanges on the body mounts are clean of spot welds and don't have any pieces of the inner rocker left on them. And same with both sides. And this plate, when it rolls outward, it goes up and it's actually connected to the A-pillar. And it's the backing plate that the lower support bracket for the A-pillar is welded to. And here's a view of that plate from up above. That's the plate right there. And here it is where it comes around and it's attached to this area here, which is the A-pillar. And here's your A-pillar lower support bracket that's welded to that plate right here. It's all one piece. Now here you can see, looking between the steel plate and the body mount with the inner rocker panel gone, you can see this little piece of inner rocker right there. That's got to come out. I've got to make sure I clean all that stuff out before I test fit the new inner rocker panel. So now with the inner rocker out, I'll go ahead and I'll straighten these flanges and make sure I clean off any residual spot welds and sand the surface to clean it up so I can test fit the new rocker panel. So at this seam right here, in this direction, this is the outer rocker panel. I'm not going to bother cleaning this because this is going to get replaced, but from this seam back is the fender. So I'll continue cleaning this flange, removing any residual spot welds. So that's it for removing the inner rocker panel. I'll go ahead and clean all my metal surfaces and get ready to test fit the new rocker panel.